Alright, listen. Before this video starts, I just want to say I was right. Look. Listen to this quick little excerpt here, okay? Listen to what Riot says about skins.
Looking at what people actually buy in game, we started to learn your tastes, and they are so much more diverse than we originally thought. For many of you, gun skins are basically fashion.
Boom! You guys see that? You know what's crazy? You know what's absolutely insane? Guess who said the same thing like a week ago? Okay, for many of you, gun skins are basically fashion. Guess who made a video literally a week ago talking about, where is it? Right here. About Valorant and game design and how they make things. Look at my little list. So I was talking about how Valorant is not really about the gameplay, but about all the things that surround the gameplay, at least for most casual audience. And look at what I have right here, bro. Skin, cosmetic, fashion industry. I fucking knew it, chat. I knew it. I knew that they were pulling knowledge and things and economics from other marketplaces. Okay, I'm done. That's all I want to say. I was right. So anyways, yeah, Luke here, fresh out of the shower, here to watch another pro Valorant VOD finals of another region because, you know, we got Shanghai Masters coming up and I want to get caught up with the regions. Last time I did a VOD review for Val, we did 100T versus G2, and I'm thinking of what to do this time. I think we're gonna do, because there's also the Chinese region, but this channel only does the other three regions. I think I want to watch Paper X versus Gen G because these are two teams that I'm going to have my eyes on for Masters Shanghai. So why don't we just talk about the game a little bit, but there's also several other things that I want to talk about because we just got a really big update basically today, actually, like this morning, in terms of Valorant, the state of the game, things like the replay system, balancing, and a lot. This is like the most information we've gotten like pretty much all year on a lot of different things, and I think we kind of need to talk about them. But I also want to watch this, so we're kind of going to do both at the same time. We're going to watch this, but then also talk about the state of the game a lot. So, yeah, but as I was saying earlier, I think both these teams, by the way, are going to be a really big threat at Shanghai. Just seeing if anything has changed since the last Masters, the team compositions. I think the only thing is Jing being on Paper X now instead of Mon yet. So we'll see how he does at this next Masters. But anyways, now I want to talk a little bit about what Riot said. So here's the situation. So Valorant put out a statement like a day or two ago saying that basically today they would update us about a lot of things, and basically this just the state of Valorant as a whole. Many different things about the games, but replay system, they even talked about skins like I showed at the beginning of the video. They talked about balancing and yeah, just a couple other things. I can actually show you on the official Valorant Twitter. They made a 13-minute video on YouTube, which is the one over here, where they talk about all these things, right? And yeah, they talk about, let's see, they have an intro, map rotations. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, map rotation. And I'm sorry to disappoint all the people who were hoping Ascent would come out of rotation. Unfortunately, Ascent is still going to be in rotation for the time being. I think that Riot probably takes a look at things like statistics and also just what the general community thinks about maps, and then they make a decision of rotations based on that. And I would say Breeze, so basically the map rotations that are happening is that Haven's coming back into the rotation and Split and Breeze are leaving the rotation. I know that there are a lot of people who are kind of expecting Ascent to come out, and me too partially. I would say like the Breeze coming out of rotation is not really a big surprise to anyone. I think that is definitely the most polarizing map in Valorant. It's like not even close. Even things like, excuse me, Icebox and Ascent. Even like Ascent, I'd say there really isn't that much complaints, especially like casual audience. I think the people who hate Ascent are more so people who play the game more religiously, but I think even casual players like Breeze, think about it. If you're someone who barely plays the game and you have to play on this gigantic map where you're fighting people from across like the entire like world, it feels like, I mean, that's hard. It's very difficult, right? So I think it makes sense. In terms of Split, I'm actually not too sure on that one. I know Split was out for most of 2022 as well, or maybe it was 2023. I forget actually. It was either 2022 or 2023, but one of those years, Split was out for like the entire year. It feels like maybe it was half the year. It's either 6 months or half the year, but they're taking it out again. I think Split's now going to become the map that's out of rotation the most. And honestly, I'm not quite too sure why. I was never someone personally who minded Split. I think the gunfights really aren't too bad, but maybe Riot looked at the statistics and they saw that it was heavily attacker-defender sided, or maybe pro players complained heavily about it. Maybe they think it needs another rework. I don't know. Either way, those are the two maps out. And like I said, Haven coming back in. Kind of a surprise, but no real surprise, because it's strange, because usually when Riot takes maps out of rotation and then back in, they usually kind of do it in an order. They usually don't put the map in that was just out. So like most people would expect Pearl to come in, because Pearl's been out for like what feels like a year now. Not really, but 7 to 8 months, pretty sure, something like that. And you know, Haven would stay out for a little bit longer while Pearl comes back, but they decided to bring Haven back in, which kind of makes sense honestly, because Haven has always been the most universally liked map in my opinion. And no, yeah, just in general, like nobody hates Haven, bro. Like if you ask anyone what their opinion on Haven is compared to the other maps, they'll say, most people will tell you it's either their favorite map or one of their favorites. Yeah, everybody likes Haven. Also, Champions is coming up in about, I want to say 3 months, 2-3 months. I forget if it was August or September. It was either late August or like September last year. I feel like it's around there. But anyways, roughly 3 months, Champions is coming up, and you know, Riot wants to make sure that the maps that are in rotation for Champions are the best current maps that they have. And you know, Haven's just a map that always looks really good in ranked, on competitive, on stage, very well balanced, never really two-sided, to like defender sided or attacker sided. So I think they want to make sure for Champions that it's just the best possible experience and that they have the best possible maps, you know. And if they were to suddenly bring in a map like Pearl or Fracture, it's like, think about it, if those maps end up like being really rough on the meta or everybody hates it, then suddenly Champions may not be as exciting to watch, and then these teams have to practice now for the next 3-4 months for a map that maybe they don't really like or that the community doesn't like. So, you know, why take a risk for a map that hasn't been played in a while? Meanwhile, we have all these new agents, balance changes. Why risk the possibility of a really rough map rotation for the biggest event of the year when you could just put in a map that everybody knows and loves, like Haven, right? So I think it makes sense. Anyways, that's going to be map rotation. Really quickly, just looking at this map state, Genji winning, I'm pretty sure Paper X actually win this series, but looks like Genji are doing pretty well on Lotus so far. I just want to say, by the way, Meteor, completely underrated player. This guy plays everything. He plays Jet, he plays Raze, right now he's playing Killjoy. This guy is like, he's like the Forsaken of Genji, you know, just can play anything you put him on. Same thing with Texture. I think Texture and Meteor, I think they kind of flex between duelist role. Sometimes it's Meteor, sometimes it's Texture. I think generally lately though it has been Texture. Now, next thing I want to talk about, another big topic. Agent balancing. Oh boy. So, just to show you guys real quickly, this was on the leak. This is the leak account for Valorant, and they pretty much talk about it. Where is it? Maybe this account actually doesn't have it, because state of agents. Okay, certain buffs. Oh, here it is. So ISO Neon Arena getting buffed and Raze getting nerfed, specifically satchel mobility. So I really wanted to highlight this part about satchel mobility. And by the way, I think I don't want to deceive people. When they say buffs, they're actually changing Reyna. They said actually here that the way they're changing Reyna is they're not just buffing her, they're actually adjusting her so that she's worse in ranked but better in competitive. Basically, more team. So basically, I think their goal is they didn't want to make her as selfish. But first, I really want to talk about Raze. So, Raze satchel mobility. So, I want to talk a little bit about history too, because for those of you who are like me, who have been playing Valorant for 2-3 years now, know that when it comes to agents and their strengths, and specifically overpowered agents and duelists, cough cough, Jet Chamber, Riot has historically, like, basically, they haven't really, in the past, whenever there's been a meta agent in the past, they've never really correctly identified what the strength is, or maybe they know a specific agent has a strength, but they've always kind of tried to tiptoe around that specific strength and nerf other things. And I know that may sound, I'm probably not wording it the best, but like specifically when I think of Chamber and Jet, right? I think Chamber is probably the best example. So Chamber eventually did end up getting nerfed. You know, the most broken part about Chamber when he was in his prime was his double TP, right? The fact that he could teleport across the map, have an instant get out of jail free card to anywhere he wanted. Like, it was like a 4-in-1 ability. It was free. You could use it to rotate fast, get out of jail free card, reposition, get on top of elevation like an Omen TP. It was like so much, right? And everyone knew Chamber was broken, and Riot knew it as well, but they didn't really want to adjust his E, so they tried to nerf all other aspects of Chamber because that was kind of the core part of his kit, his teleport, right? So for a very long time, basically throughout all of 2022, while Chamber was meta, is instead of nerfing his E, they would nerf things like his ultimate, his headhunter, his chamber trap. You know, the first thing they did was reduce the amount of traps from 2 to 1, and then I think they made headhunter more expensive, and then they slightly nerfed ult at one point, right? Basically, it's like Riot kept on trying to avoid the core problem of why the agent was OP and instead nerf all the other things because they really wanted to keep the core part of the agent. And the reason why I bring this up is because when I see them talk about Chamber raze, and they talk about wanting to nerf raze mobility, specifically your satchels, I think Riot is once again doing the same mistake they did with Chamber and Jet. Same thing with Jet, is like before they nerfed Dash, it was like, you know, ult used to right click reset, 3 cloud bursts, updraft were always the same, and like fall off damage with ults, as well as a couple other things. But it was a while basically before, same thing with Chamber, that before Jet, like her dash eventually got nerfed and you had that window. And I think once again, I don't think that the core issue with the raze is her satchels. As a matter of fact, I think that is probably the worst ability to nerf, because I think it's also the part that makes raze the most enjoyable and the most fun. And now let me explain before you know, I'm sure you guys, let's talk about the arguments and counter arguments here, okay? So Riot's argument with raze and her satchels is that it makes her too mobile, you know, it allows her to entry too easily, too fast, cover a very great distance, you know, basically like too many dashes. Okay, so Genji win Lotus here, by the way. Jing doing alright, Texture doing very well, both raze players. I think this also just highlights how strong raze is, the fact that I feel like in a lot of maps where raze is meta, it's like you will very often see the raze top frag, assuming they're competent, because she's just very strong. But anyways, so they want to nerf raze satchels. I really don't think, for many reasons, that is the way to go. And I think that they're making the same mistake they did with Jet and Chamber. It's like, Raze's nade is very strong. Even her boom bot is like very strong. Of course, it's been nerfed many times now, but I think it's still a core part of her kit. And I think honestly, the biggest strength in Raze isn't even her satchels. I would say it's either her ult or her grenade, her E or her X or ult. And I really don't think it's her satchels. I think satchels are actually the part that makes raze like very unique. And I think as long as raze has her nade and her ults, she will be very strong. Because I mean, think about it like this: on a lot of maps you generally pick raze. Yes, entering is very good, but you also pick her for the clearing part, right? You know, clearing corners, clearing angles, post plant, ults, nades, spam, all of that, right? And even if you nerf or just remove satchels entirely, she's still gonna have that ult that can one-shot you, get multi-kills, cover space, entry, because people generally run away when you ult, so like she'll still be able to entry with that, and she'll still have grenade, you know, reset off of 2 kills, and basically, I might be overreacting, and this might be perfectly fine, you know, raze having her double satchels. Maybe they won't even really adjust the mobility at all, or maybe they'll do it to such a small amount we won't even notice it, or maybe it'll be a significant amount, but it'll still be good. But either way, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the first nerf, and I kind of expect a nade, honestly, mainly an ultimate nerf, maybe a nade or ultimate nerf, but I'm thinking mainly an ultimate nerf because I just don't think the satchels are the main part of her problem. And I'm just really sad too because I feel like we're kind of moving away from original Valorant and we're moving into kind of Valorant 2.0 or kind of new era of the game, you know? First it was the you know, the jet highlights, the instant dash highlights that kind of became obsolete, and now I'm just kind of sad because I mean, one of my favorite things about Valorant and watching people, whether it's TikTok edits or pro plays, like the double satchel plays. I think double satchel was like one of the most unique and coolest things, specifically when it comes to the movement of Valorant. And to see that kind of fade away, of course, we haven't actually seen the changes yet, so maybe I'm overreacting or it'll be perfectly fine. It's kind of sad to see, you know? I feel like there's so many raze YouTubers. I mean, Flights was one. He doesn't really upload these days, but I can think of many, many more raze one tricks. And a big part of their gameplay is their double satchel play. You know, I feel like how good you are on raze comes down to how well you can utilize your satchels, and to see that kind of get nerfed will be sad, you know, but we'll see what happens. So I don't want to say too much about that, but I just want to say I'm getting a bit of deja vu when it comes to agent strengths and Riot seeing an agent as strong but kind of tiptoeing around their real strengths and trying to nerf other things. But at the same time, I do understand that, you know, raze having two satchels, one satchel already brings you very far, by the way. Like, if you can maximize the strength of one satchel, you can use it to gain like a pretty good amount of distance. So two is already really good. Maybe they'll just decrease it to one. Maybe they won't touch the mobility at all. But either way, I don't know. We'll see, we'll see. But it's just like, I feel like, in my opinion, the last kind of OP thing in the game was raze double satchel. You know, I feel like there's always things that kind of go under the radar abilities. And, you know, it was jet dash for a while, then it was chamber E. And I feel like the last thing in the game that was like, mobility wise really unique, cool, and you could, you know, make really cool clips, and at the same time it's not overpowered. Like, you have to know how to use satchels. Like, if you've never raised satchel before, it is not easy. It definitely takes a couple times to get used to, especially to maximize height or distance, whichever you're going for. But I think raise satchel was the last thing in this game that kind of made, you know, that one agent that was really fun. Maybe you could argue Reyna E is actually another one. Instant Reyna dismiss, get out of jail free card, but I feel like raze satchel is like a core part of Valorant for me. So, and you know, core part of a big part of the community, like so many raze one tricks that just love raze and her satcheling, so it makes me kind of sad to see go. So like now we're moving into the life, kind of the lifespan of Valorant, where it's like we're going to be talking about how raze used to be able to double satchel across the map, you know. Well, I think we're moving very close to those days where a lot of these things will become very nostalgic for us, in the same way Jet used to have instant dash or Chamber used to have double TP. I'm going to see that with raze as well. Anyways, Paper X, by the way, looking a lot better this game. Like, I know I haven't been talking about the game at all, but seem to really pick it up this map on Sunset. I think, forget how Paper X have done historically on Sunset, but I feel like they haven't done too badly. So, glad to see that they're doing better, pick things up after game 1. Alright, now the other things I want to talk about. Neon, the agents getting buffed. Neon, Reyna, and ISO. I don't really have too much to say because Riot themselves didn't clarify what exactly it would be, the changes they would make. However, I do have a couple of ideas, and actually no, Riot did say with ISO they want to make adjustments to his E, his little, you know, his aim labs grid shot thing, the thing where you kill people and you get a little shield if you hit the little target. I think from the very beginning this ability was flawed, and I remember I said this, I want to say like a month ago on stream at one point. I think I talked about it with a couple people. I said that I have a big feeling that ISO is going to end up like Yoru, where the initial kind of vision for ISO. Wow, I don't know about pushing in through that full blind. Paper X are brave, man. It's like, I feel like Paper X have that sense of camaraderie where if one person goes, they all kind of gotta go, or else, you know, they'll be the odd one out. And you know, I respect that, but sometimes it can look really goofy, like when they all get blinded but they push out anyways. But yeah, I want to say ISO, I kind of predict to get the Yoru treatment, where, for those of you who don't know, Yoru's kit was actually completely different. At least his some of his abilities were when he first came out. He originally only had one TP. He never had a clone. And it surprised me because I was talking about this to someone when I was talking about it then, and I was like, you know, Yoru never used to have a clone, and they were like, what do you mean Yoru never had a clone? Like, what? And I had to explain to them, I was like, yeah, you know, his original C ability was, it was fake footsteps, right? Is you would place these footsteps on the ground, you had 2 of them, and you could activate them at any time like the clone, but rather than a clone, it would just be footsteps. And yeah, so they ended up changing the amount of charges his E has, his C has. They ended up reworking the footsteps into clone, and I'm sure they made adjustments to his flashes, like the time. I know flashes got buffed and nerfed many times, like in terms of the timings of when they go off, and I'm sure Yoru's was one of them. And the ult might have been the only thing that was left untouched, but yeah, I think with ISO, I think that the E needs to be completely reworked. I think that the issue is like, it kind of goes against the game fundamentals or what the game kind of wants you to do. And in terms of like flicking away to another target, I feel like that's just so bad in so many circumstances. It's just, basically, to sum it up, it's very impractical. ISO's current E is just incredibly impractical with the game design and how it's optimally played when it comes to holding an angle, getting multi-kills. You know, if you have multiple people rushing a site, and then an ability gives you the incentive as soon as you get 1 kill to immediately look away and kill the target, and then suddenly someone else rushes you, it's like, I just don't think it's good. It doesn't give you the right incentive. And of course, you know, you could just ignore the orb, kind of like a Reyna heal. But I think the cool thing about Reyna heal and dismiss is you don't have to be looking at it, and that's why it works, right? Is because like you just press the button and it activates. But the issue with the ISO E is like you get a kill, you suddenly have to aim away from the angle, and you're made vulnerable. And I guess that's kind of supposed to be the trade-off. You make yourself vulnerable for a temporary shield, but even the shield is like very temporary, and yeah, I just don't think it's practical. Same thing with all of his other abilities, you know. Yoru at least had a blind which was practical, or an ult which was kind of practical, but I just think all of ISO's abilities are just very impractical. His wall, in a game where, you know, concealing information as much as possible, it's like, use a wall, it's like, it tells you so much information that someone is there. I think also just like pushing behind a wall is just kind of goofy. His vulnerable, oh, that's the other thing that's huge. So his vulnerable, I think, is terrible, right? And it kind of makes ISO contradict all of his abilities in general, because like you have the first ability, his E, which really wants you to be precise. You know, you get a kill, usually a headshot, and then you have to use your precision to click on the orb to get that temporary shield. And then for some reason he has an Q vulnerable, and I feel like this kind of is an issue with vulnerables as a whole. They basically reward you for getting body shots, and I think in general you kind of have to be dangerous with that, because it basically teaches you to not hit headshots. Like, think about it like this: you're an ISO 1 trick, and you use his Q like every round. And you kind of, as a 1 trick, you recognize that one of your strengths is your abilities to make enemies vulnerable. Well, then suddenly you're given the incentive to always Q people and not aim for their head, but instead aim for their body because they're vulnerable. And I just think that's not good. Like, you should never reward something, I think, that only works on one character and that kind of makes you worse at the game. Like, if you're an ISO 1 trick and you're consistently just going for body shots now instead of headshots, but then you also have an ability that requires precision with his E, is just, none of it makes sense. It all just goes against each other. I'd say the one cool thing about ISO is maybe his ult. I actually don't think his ult is that bad. I think his ult, like, actually encompasses duelist ults pretty well, because yeah, it's a skill test, but you get to choose when to use it. And I think, excuse me, the highlight is definitely post-plant scenarios. You know, you can basically checkmate people if your attacking spike is down and there's one defender they're trying to defuse. You can just stall it out, right? That's like the one strength. But at the same time, you look at an agent like Raze, who has an ult where you don't have to risk your life at all, pretty much, and it's like close to a guaranteed kill, right? It's like you use ult on Raze, suddenly it's like you have this massive power spike, right? And ISO ult is like, I mean, yeah, you can isolate people, but it doesn't really give you that advantage that Raze or Jet ult gives you. And another thing I think is interesting is they don't talk about Yoru at all, do they? Yeah, so I guess they think Yoru's in a good spot, which I don't really blame them. I think Euro is actually in a fine spot. I just think that he's really hard to learn, and I think that most pros just play raze and jet, and it's not really worth putting in the time to learn Yoru. And I don't know. I don't think he's in a bad spot. But the last thing is Rain. Oh yeah, Neon. Actually, Neon I'm kind of excited for. I remember when Neon first came out, I thought she was very cool, very fun to play with. You know, her dash, very annoying for other people. I wouldn't be surprised if Riot does something where they completely remove the like speed up and they just make the dash, like they basically buff the E ability itself and they nerf the passive of her E, or they buff the slide and they nerf the dash, right? Maybe they want to really double down on the kind of movements, basically the entering power. Well, I don't know. Neon is kind of interesting. I'm really excited though, because when I see movement character and I see buff, and I see buff to specific movement ability, it's like that definitely is something I'm all for. Anything when it comes to increasing movement, I'm always for buffing movements in any game, because I think it's what makes the game more fun, what gives you more personality, what allows, I think generally movement, like you need to be good in order to fully utilize, so it has a high skill floor and a high skill ceiling, so I'm all for that. So I'm excited to see what Riot has to do with Neon. In terms of ISO, I think full rework. Reyna, I have no clue either, to be honest. I don't know. In terms of adding something that will make her more of a team player, the most likely change I could see them doing is honestly her ultimate. I feel like her ultimate is like a very similar to her Q and E already, right? It's like, it's very selfish. I feel like the way you kind of make her Reyna more team oriented is maybe you keep the Q and E, because I feel like in my opinion you should keep the core part of Reyna, which is her Q and E, her heal and dismiss, and then, you know, maybe you change her blind, who cares, but I think the easiest thing to change is her ult, because her ult is already basically just another version of her E and Q. So maybe you make her ult something more team oriented and then you keep Q and E, or then you make an adjustment to C. I don't know. Right? We'll have to see what they do. We'll have to see, but I know I've been rambling now for a while in terms of agent balancing, but that's pretty much my thoughts. That was like the main topic I want to cover today was Raze, Deja Vu, Jet and Chamber. I don't think satcheling is the problem. I think that's the worst thing you could do actually. And then the other three and how they might be changed. I think Aizu is just flawed as a character and he needs the Yoru treatment. He needs to just be reworked. One of his abilities just needs to be completely reworked. And I think that Riot said that they don't want to make too many changes, those are the main things, and that they want to make more adjustments after Champions, which I think is totally fair. I think when you're this deep into the competitive season, I really like that they think of the pro players very heavily, and that, you know, making an adjustment is very risky in terms of like the competitiveness, because you don't know if it'll create some crazy meta if you make a big adjustment now right before champs, but also just the pro players, them having to relearn all these things. I think they think the meta is in like a somewhat decent place, and ooh, nice shots texture. And they don't want to change too much. So basically I think their plan is to make a few adjustments now, wait until Champions ends, then really bring in the big changes, you know. And crazy to think, guys, but we might be going a full year without Pearl or Fracture. Which yeah, is kind of insane, because I don't think maps have ever been out for that long out of the rotation, but here we are. You know, not going to be seeing them for a very, very long time. And might be just hitting the 1 year mark. No Fracture, no Pearl. Just crazy to think about. I do really miss those maps, specifically Fracture. Fracture has a very special place in my heart. And I'm honestly surprised, because I always thought Fracture was the most fun to watch from a competitive standpoint, because I think it's the map that rewards aggression on defense the most when it comes to like pinching, because of how unique the map is. I think Fracture is definitely the most unique map in the game, and I definitely miss it. It's unique, it rewards aggression on defense, and it doesn't have gunfights that are 1 million miles away like on Breeze. I think it's just such a cool map, and I feel like people have really realized how much they miss it and love it. I feel like it's not like Haven, because we all knew we loved Haven. And, you know, Icebox and Breeze come back, and then we remember how much we dislike those maps. But I feel like Fracture is like the one map where it's always kind of been very special and it's very unique. And both in ranked and pro play, very fun to watch. And I think that's everything. I don't really have too much to say about the replay system. Pretty much all Riot said, for those of you who didn't see the post about the replay system, is they are working on it, but it still needs a very long time, and there's still very many bugs. And they talked about how if they want to make the replay system correctly, they have to make sure all the abilities are coded correctly. It's basically a lot of technical stuff, where if they want to make the replay system work, they might have to change certain game elements to the core as a whole. And I don't know, because the thing is, League has always... not always, but League for a very long time now has had a replay system. And I do know that the League replay system can be very buggy in it of itself. Like, in terms of like abilities and characters moving and just things, timings. So, and that just looks like a coding nightmare. And for those of you who don't know, League has like 170 characters. Valorant only has like 20 or something. Has like, I don't know, like 20, 25, I don't remember. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we reached like 100, 200 agents in Valorant, which, you know, I wouldn't really mind because League is like not very different. League is same thing, 4 abilities and maybe 1 passive per agent. Valorant 4 abilities, maybe a passive, maybe just only one with the passive actually because of her tailwind. But anyways, it's like, I think I could handle it, but all those agents. But anyways, replay systems being worked on, just very challenging from a technical standpoint, so it could be a year or two since we see, until we see replays, who knows. And even when it comes out, it'll probably have bugs, but we'll see. I think that's pretty much it though. In terms of other news, skins, replays, balance, map rotations, talk about all of that. Man, I want to see Fracture come back, but I think the map rotation is the worst it's been in a while. Like, I don't want to drop the ball or anything. I feel like it's not a big problem though. I don't really complain about maps too much because I don't think it's a big issue. I feel like when you think about the maps, I feel like if you get mad at the maps, it's more so just the gameplay as a whole, the time to die and how hard it is to attack in this game, the coordination it takes. I think that some of the frustrations people think that is on certain maps it really applies to all maps, not just one map. It's just the core part of the game as a whole. Nice shot. But in terms of skins, I actually didn't hear all of it, but I did see that Riot talked about, yeah, you know, a lot of people see skins as like a part of your wardrobe, and man, I just saw that clip and I thought it was just funny how I literally made the same realization a week ago, and it wasn't just skins, it was all these other things, you know. People, it's not just that Valorant's play for the skins and for the fashion and wardrobe aspect, and that it has that kind of minigame element, but also the social elements, and I don't think Riot really talks about that, but people really just, a lot of people play Valorant just to meet new people, which is perfectly fine and normal, but I just thought it was funny how, like, I literally talked about, I did a deep dive into those specific topics a week ago, and then Riot recognizes that the same thing, like basically exactly what I said. I actually want to watch it because I stopped here and I paused it, and then I started recording the video as soon as I saw this, but this is actually a big segment, so why don't we watch real quick.
Your collections page is an extension of your own closet, kind of like Ten's and his all red collection. You think all his shirts are red too?
Probably.
Sentinels. So, one of our design goals is to make sure there's at least one skin out there for everyone. Something that feels like it was made just for you.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And something we've been hearing over and over again is, where are the pink skins?
I said on stream, probably what, like a year ago or something like that, that we were working on non-edgy pink skins.
Non-edgy pink skins.
And we still are today. But we don't just take any skin and...
I mean, I think it makes sense. I think when Riot's... Okay, this is like... I think it's fine saying this, but I think when Riot first made Valorant, and they said this actually, this is not my words, this is their words at the beginning of this video, when they were making the game in 2020, is like, they weren't really sure what the skins were supposed to be. But I think if you think about economics and market and business and just like company and all this corporate stuff, it's like you have to think about your core audience, right? And I'm sure when Riot thought about, because, you know, they are a business and they want to make money, they thought about the core kind of market for Valorant at the time, and like this is just true statistically, it was just mostly more male dominated, and obviously that's like, it might still be male dominated, but like it's definitely changed, and you know, now it's much more diverse. But I'm just saying this because, you know, when they first made skins, I would say they were probably a lot more male targeted, just because that was the main demographic and that's what would make them the most money. They didn't, you know, it's not that they're masochists or anything like that. It's just that that's what the audience was, and that's how you make the most amount of money. And if, you know, the female audience was the largest, I'm sure that they would target it towards like female or like women as well. But just at the time, like FPS genre, that's what it was mainly dominated by. Now, of course, that has changed, and it's like not uncommon at all, and it's just like girls are, it's just a normal part of the game. But I think back then, it's just that's what made the most amount of money in corporate eyes. So that's what, you know, and I'm sure maybe even the game designers didn't have a choice. It was just like the higher ups said, okay, this is what makes the most amount of money, so do this. And maybe they didn't have a choice. But of course, that has changed now. So now, you know, we've already seen the shift, especially with bundles like Crypt's Bloom, I think it's called, or whatever the newest bundle is, like all flowery themed. You know, I think that's super, super cool. And I think they've realized that now there is a extremely big marketplace for women and just people who like those kinds of things and those colors. And not specifically women, of course, but rather like all these kinds of people. And rather than just having these specific tastes, it's like you can have all these other tastes as well that people will also buy and will be successful and, you know, make them money.
Recolor it pink. It needs to make sense for the theme, otherwise it'll just fall flat, and it seems like we're just trying to check a box. And I want to be clear here. We've also been making efforts to understand what you mean when you say you want pink skins. Because pink skin means something different to every one of you.
Because, you know, obviously, like, when most of the time, at least in the past, when you think about guns, you think about violence, killing, you know, soldiers running around killing people, like guns, violence, war, all this, like, dark, gruesome stuff. And nowadays, it's like, basically what it was associated with. I feel like weapons and violence and guns as in general used to be associated with much different things than they are now. And now, like, guns are not really associated as much with all these gruesome and dark themes, but rather, like, guns can kind of be associated with anything. And like they said, it's kind of like a fashion statement. It's kind of like a piece in your wardrobe. It doesn't really mean anything bad anymore. It's just like, it's like an accessory, like a necklace or something.
Some mean cute or whimsical, some mean
Right.
elegant.
And now, see, like years ago, people would never think like cute or whimsical, elegant, like with guns, like with violence, war, people dying. Like people never associated those things. But now that's kind of more changed, right? Some more feminine, right? It's just that years ago that wasn't really a thing, but I guess times have changed.
Some mean feminine, and no one can agree on which shade of pink is the right shade. Sometimes even you, Preeti, get the distinction wrong between pink and purple.
Yeah, I don't know what color Reaver is. Is it pink or purple?
Once upon a time, it was both.
For our first real attempt in this space, we took your feedback about what you enjoy most from high-tier skins. Hype finishers, satisfying aimbot audio, unique animations.
For me, the biggest thing is audio, by the way. I care less about what it looks like and more so the sound when you shoot the bullets.
Speaking of
Miss
feedback,
Bloom, right?
we heard you last year on the Champions Kunai. We know one of the most important parts about a melee skin is the inspect animation and how good it feels to spam.
I can't believe they finally mentioned this. Wow, I did not think, you know, because like it used to be a thing with these game studios is they would hate to admit mistakes. You know, it makes me so happy that Riot has come such a long way, because even years ago in Valorant, it's like they would never admit mistakes with game design or maybe choices they've made. So it honestly, it surprises me, and I respect Riot that they admit. Yeah, that was a big thing. For those of you who don't know, it's like the champion skin for 2023. It had an extremely lackluster inspect animation. It was basically like the default knife animation. Like when you first download Valorant, it's like the character looks at it and then that's it. It puts it back down, and like it was so underwhelming. So
with Miss Bloom, we kept that super clean jet style equip that you all love, and we really leaned into what makes Miss Bloom special as a theme. We added a brand new inspect animation and a mystical musical loop that's perfectly zen and BM at the same time. After you get that 4K clutch, you're super hyped, your team is screaming at you in chat, telling you to clip it. We know that you want to add a little bit of style to that play, and we know that
I think the pull-out animation is like really
really
cool for the
something
2023 Kunai. It's just, yeah,
And
the
I swear,
inspect.
we'll continue to work hard on making more skins for all of you, no matter your tastes. Miss Bloom
Skin
is
market
just our
is so
first
big.
take on pink skins, but we promise it won't be the last. Anyway, next up is Outlaw. We know
I
you've
wonder
all
what
been
that
waiting
was.
for a sick outlaw skin, and with every new hype bundle, you're asking, where is the outlaw? Is Riot trolling? Why doesn't Miss Bloom come out?
I like that they
No,
use
we're
words
not
like trolling.
Making high-tier skins just takes time, a really long time. It's gonna be a few more months, but I'm not gonna say anything else about that.
A few more
Say
months.
something. I'll say something.
Fine, I guess.
One of your favorite high-tier skin lines of all time is going to be expanding to get a clean new outlaw skin. I felt like it's really worth sharing.
Okay, so maybe a
That's right.
2.0 skin
We're
or maybe
bringing
even a
slight
3.0.
outlaw to you.
Oh no. They're trolling. Okay, never mind.
Scrap that idea. We're actually doing the other one, the one.
Alright, this video is already really long, so let me just see if there's anything else.
Wait, there was something else we wanted to talk about, and
Oh.
I cannot remember what it was. Oh, replays. Yeah, it seems there's been some increased chat in the community about replays lately. Seems as though some.
Okay, so we already talked about the replays. Still needs a long way to go, but basically they're working on it. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. As you know, I guess the main point of this video ended up not really being watching this series, but there's just a lot to talk about, you know, and I really wanted to cover some of those things, and it wasn't just one topic. Like, I can make an entire video on one agent balance change, like an entire video on raze, but there's like 4 agents, map rotations, replay system, the update video, skins, and a couple more things I'm sure I forgot about. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about those things, and I guess we didn't end up analyzing that much about this gameplay, but I guess I do have a couple things to say. Ooh, seeing Jing, by the way, back on Icebox. Let's actually skip to the end here. I want to see how Icebox ends up going. I want to see if Paper X will win Icebox. Okay, they do. I think this might go to a Game 5. So I guess, why don't we jump to Game 5, because just looking at the... Yeah. And I'll just talk a bit about these teams. Because I think Gen G... For those of you who don't know, by the way, for any League players out there, League esports enjoyers like me, Gen G actually won MSI, and for those of you who don't know what MSI is basically like the Masters equivalent of Valorant, so it's not Champions, but it's like the second biggest event. And there's actually only one MSI, it's short for Mid-Season Invitational, so you know how Valorant has 2 Masters? You know, we had the first Masters event, and now we're going to have Masters Shanghai, and then we have Champions at the end of the year, so basically 3 international events per year, and I think that's how it's been every year since like 2021. 2021, so the last 3 years, right? Basically, League only has 2 big events. They have the MSI, Mid-Season Invitational, and then they have Worlds, which is like the Champions equivalent. But Gen G actually won the Masters of League, which was pretty insane to see, because they were... For Gen G's League teams, they were always a team that were very, very strong and basically won domestically, but they could never get a title internationally. Like, they would always win, like, say, the Valorant's, like, APAC title. Like, they'd always get first place in APAC, or in their case, Korea, LCK, but they could never bring it home, like, internationally. And, you know, the Valorant team kind of reminds me of that. I don't know if they've ever won. I think they actually might have won once domestically. They might have won the kickoff tournament. I don't remember of this year. But Gen G have actually, they have a really big esports facility. All the players play in the same place. It's kind of like the T1 facility. Like, T1 have a very big esports facility as well in Korea. And I think Gen G do as well. I actually want to look it up. Gen G esports building, because they have a pretty big thing, like basically for a lot of their teams. For League, for Valorant, is like you can't really see too much here. I guess you can only see it from the outside, but this like kind of gives you a rough idea of the building. The T1 building is huge, by the way. Like, it's an actual tower. Yeah, like they have a cafe in here. They have like merch center. They have so much. It's actually like a huge ass tower. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's pretty big. It's pretty big. They have like fitness center. They have gym. They have offices. They have sauna. They have karaoke. They have like all of these things for all these players. It's like actually insane. But Gen G are pretty big in Korea, for those of you who don't know as well. Probably biggest after T1. Anyways, back on Valorant. I feel like Gen G, Valorant's team, they're pretty good too. I mean, I'd say generally it's like these big esports orgs, when they have a team that's really good at one game, generally a couple of their other teams will be very good as well, which is why I do have hope here for Gen G internationally. I mean, they made it to... Sorry, I was just thinking. They made it to the first Masters. Where was first Masters? Valorant first Masters. I don't know why I'm forgetting this. Valorant Masters 2024. Oh, Madrid, that's where it was, right. First Masters in Madrid, you know, Gen G got second, and now they qualify again for Shanghai, so really, really excited to see what they're able to do here. And, you know, that's not even me talking about the European teams or the Chinese teams, but Paper X, I feel like a lot of people have their eyes on. I think a lot of people are actually expecting Paper X to, there's like a poll done among the Valorant commentators, and I think they all said they expect Paper X to win. I think, but you know, there's so many teams. I think it's impossible to predict. Like, you have good teams from every region going. But anyways, Gen G, like, they are not getting steamrolled here. Even if they lose this, they're bringing it pretty close. Like game 5, 7-5 half, or even 8-4 half is like not bad at all, especially against Paper X. Very seasoned and experienced team.
On that right hand side, gonna go unscouted for now. They do spot him out. Shots flying, something.
And you know, they are winning this half. Starting on defense, man. Split is so weird, man. You just play in spawn, and you can play so far back on defense. I mean, Munchkin's probably gonna save you. Oh wait, no, it's last round and a half. What am I saying? So Paper X get the 7-5 half, but I think they, wow. I think a couple people play aggressively A main choke, and they get 2. Works out really well. 2 for 1. Good trade. Did they have a read here, or is it like late in the round? I actually want to see real quick. Because, wow, that's actually crazy, guys. So this isn't like a mid-round play. This is why Paper X are just like insane. They go for these reads and plays. Like, usually on pistol round on defense, you'll default or play for information, but Paper X instead, they stack 4 people on A and do an aggressive raze sky play that ends up working really well. It's like you're basically gambling that the other team will attack you. So maybe they had a read, but it ends up working really well. This probably just wins them the round, like straight up, I'm guessing.
Try to keep them interested in something. It'll strike them down.
Yeah, wow. Look at how much space they take here too, by the way. Paper X on defense, they work into their spawn. And you know, Gen G, I don't know why they don't just lean B here. You can see there's no one on B. Like, Paper X showed heavy A presence. They should have just gone B. Maybe they thought that Paper X were going to rotate, but if you show 4 on A, like, I feel like as attackers, you just lean on their site. So I don't know what Gen G are doing. I think they're like getting in their own heads. They overthink.
And this is just step by step. Now he's got backup as well.
Yeah. Okay, nothing crazy here. And I'm guessing, honestly, off of that momentum, see, wow, and Paper X win on Gen G's buy rounds. I feel like at that point, it's just over. You have all the momentum. Just want to see what the score is, just because, like I said, this video is really long already. Wow, they get 1 round, and seems like Paper X, I don't know, they have a really good read on defense here, but they do end up closing it out on split. And yeah, so both these teams will be going to Masters Shanghai. It'll be really fun to see. It'll be fun to see how they do. So anyways, this video is already really long, so I think we're going to call it there, chats, but it was fun hanging out with you guys, talking about all the changes and everything. Excited to see what future Valorant will have to hold. Also kind of scared, but I'll see you guys next time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Peace.